Internet horror has been this fascinating thing ever since the explosion of creepypastas and internet horror stories. However, I don't think there was one more infamous and confusing than Sonic.exe. It rose during the early birth of creepypasta, and yet out of every single one, it was the only one that is still truly alive to this day. However, despite how popular it is, and how popular honestly it always has been, not many people know the really convoluted story behind it and the very interesting story behind it. And so I decided, hey, let's look into it, let's explore it. My friend suggested this to me, so yeah, and the initial D video's taken a bit of time. We finished our finals. I'm recording this on the day after I finished my last one, and that will be coming out soon as well. So as usual, hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's start diving into creepypastas. Let's start by setting the scene. It's early 2010s, internet horror has become very mainstream. You got like, you know, it's kind of that kind of, well, it's not very mainstream yet, but the stories like Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, Smile Dog, Suicide Mouse, those kinds of stories are all the rage. Now, I will say that I don't know if those stories came out during the early 2010s or whatever, but you know, I don't know if they came out before friggin' Sonic.exe, so just know it's those kinds of stories. But there's one that's very important to the creation of Sonic.exe, and it's Ben Drowned. What is Ben Drowned? Well, it's a story that a few of you might know. It's pretty old, but here's the really quick gist of it. Person goes to garage sale, finds a copy of Majora's Mask for really cheap, which, you know, that's nice. Buys it. Game is super weird. It's very glitchy, quote, and by glitchy, it's like it'll show like a freaking dead body and be like, oh, that's just a weird glitch. And then, you know, it turns out it's haunted by the previous owner, Ben, who ended up drowning and went into the game or something. It's a very short version of the story, but that's just the general idea. Now, mind you, this is before the whole idea of a haunted game got very popular. At the time, this is a relatively new-ish thing, and it became a very popular creepypasta due to its unique nature. Now, why is this important? Well, it would set up the foundation for Sonic.exe, and it's a foundation as like a story, primarily with the haunted game trope. However, Sonic.exe would also use a lot of other tropes, and keep that in mind as well, but the most important one was undoubtedly what Ben Drowned set with the haunted game trope. The creator of Sonic.exe, JC the Hyena, would also claim that like a big inspiration was this image that he made of like the spooky Sonic that is pretty iconic. But you know, and he said he made it, but that's unconfirmed. And speaking of JC the Hyena, not much is really known about them now, and so there are a lot of missing, missing gaps in what will happen between certain events, and that is mainly because all of their socials have been deleted, including their Fur Affinity, YouTube, their Tumblr. I think they had one. They had a couple other social medias, and I'm not able to look through any of them. I think they had a Twitter as well. It's also gone. So a lot of the gaps are kind of missing. I'll try and fill in what I can, but just know it might be a bit empty when we're not talking about, I guess, the stories and the reception of all that stuff. But just keep that in mind. Alright, so on to the first story. It's August 9th, 2011, and a creepypasta has been uploaded to the Creepypasta Wiki, Sonic.exe by JC the Hyena. During the time of writing, JC was about 19 or so. So the reason this is important is because the writing is very interesting. I'm gonna put it bluntly, it's quite bad, at least by our standards today. It's tropey, relies on many cliches, and is pretty generic considering it does the what if character from a popular media goes bad, gone wrong, emotional, whatever. And let's just give you the quick idea. Kid named Tom is a Sonic fan. One day he's vibing playing a game, gets a disc from his friend named Kyle in the mail, and Kyle's like, you gotta destroy this, man, it's evil, this dude's after me, destroy it, he's gonna come after you, destroy the disc. And instead of heeding his friend's dying wishes, he puts this disc in, and mind you, it looks like this. It is a blank disc with Sonic.exe on it, okay? So he puts this in his computer, and despite what the audience thinks, no, Tom did not just install a Bitcoin miner or is now part of a botnet controlled by some dude in like Kenya or something like that. Rather, it opens up Sonic, the original Sonic game. Like, it's just Sonic the Hedgehog. However, this shows up for like a split second, this like creepy image, and it's the one that I told you about earlier, and blah blah blah. Anyways, he plays it but is unable to play as Sonic, and instead can play as Tails, Eggman, or Knuckles. He plays the game as Tails and gets stalked by like the spooky looking Sonic. You know what? And there's like dead animals, and you know, just rinse and repeat with Eggman and Knuckles. I literally could not be bothered to remember what even happens because it is painfully generic. You know, spooky stuff weird happens, and he's like, oh, it's just a glitch, it's just a glitch, it's just a glitch. And then, you know, they're dying, and like, and then he tries to get away from the game, then he can't get away from the game. And then it turns out the characters in the games are like the trapped souls of the other victims of Sonic.exe, and Tom is the next one, and it literally ends on like some he's right behind me, isn't it, freaking line. The writing is just very bland and poorly done, at least by, again, our standards today. I mean, one part literally has to shove in the reader's face, like, this is what Sonic.exe is doing. It makes it very obvious and is trying to make it, it's very painful, it's painfully, on bad. I can't put it any other way. Again, I could analyze the original text and see where it fails, but that's not the point of this video. Anyways, this creepypasta would meet some genuine success. However, its true success would not be seen until a game version of it would come out almost exactly a year later, and a famous YouTuber would do a cover of the creepypasta. I don't know how you do that without laughing, but whatever. The video would this video of like people playing and this video of like the reading of it would truly be where all the popularity gets. Yeah, and this is where the glory golden age kind of comes from. You know, YouTubers making content on it, artists were making art of it, the story was on top of the world, and JC was actively engaging with this community he created via his socials, which again are now gone, but you know, I would assume he would talk with a lot of these people during this time. Over time, he would make 2-ish more Sonic.EXE things, more stories, and you know, more lore would come out, and even a movie almost came out of all of this. But again, it's all kind of hard to figure this stuff out because a lot of this information is gone. I mean, the only thing I could really find during this time before 2014, which is an important date, was JC just posting on Google Plus, I guess, which, yeah, wow, that was a thing at one point. And that's really about it. However, around this time in 2013, based on later accounts, he would also get a girlfriend, but we'll talk more about that later. Alright, so time's passing, story is slowly starting to fade out of popularity, times are changing, new creepypastas are coming in, and the standards are changing. And on June 2014, a fascinating crash out would ensue. You see, the place where JC had posted all of his creepypastas, the Creepypasta Wiki, would end up deleting it, actually. They would get rid of it, and they would delete all of his works under the guise of them being filled with too many cliches and being poorly written overall, which is, yeah, fair, at least because their standards started to evolve, and they started to understand what makes a good story, and so they saw this as worse. New members were starting to come into this as creepypastas got popular, and they saw this and they say, hey, it's very lazy compared to these other things that I've read. I don't like this. Why is this considered such a why is this so highly regarded? And this would end up getting moved to the Trollpasta Wiki instead. And, you know, JC was not happy with this, to say the least. He was very, very, very angry. So he proceeded to write a giant, interesting monologue, I guess. I don't even know what to put it. A crash out, freaking monologue, I don't know. And I don't know where it was posted, but this would be one of the most infamous things to come out of Sonic.EXE. Let me read it in full and give my own commentary on some things. Quote, I deeply regret to inform you all that I have some bad news. The admins of the Creepypasta Wiki have finally decided to delete Sonic.exe off the wiki, on the grounds that it was badly written and had too many cliches, and, quote, was a bad example of what should be a creepypasta. Bull friggin' horseshit. As you can see, I am furious with the fact that my masterpiece, which has won the hearts of millions and has made such a massive impact on the internet, is being brought down by a bunch of jealous, arrogant, and then he proceeds to say the R slur, which, you know, I guess, you know, 2014 was a different year, I guess. And then, sorry, jealous, arrogant, R slur, furry haters. Now, let us look at this last paragraph here, and this last paragraph is absolutely coated with ego and narcissism. However, I can sort of understand why. When he refers to his work as a masterpiece and something that won the hearts of millions, he's referring to the praise it had gotten during the early years. During the early years, everyone actually genuinely thought this was a good story. Like, it was actually good. And so it created this notion that it's a good story. However, as time passed, people began to see through their bias, most likely due to just other, you know, creepypastas coming out and increasing quality, and it would become hated after a while. And so now it's changed, but I thought it was a masterpiece, right? And so the thought of a masterpiece you created becoming some kind of joke and something that people deeply hate is something that I could almost see as being detrimental. However, that doesn't excuse what he said at all. I mean, and what's he saying right now. And it's clear he's still living on like the ego and lacks logic and reasoning to understand the own flaws of what he created. Rather than recognizing his own problems, he blames the moderators and new members and calls them, you know, arrogant and jealous and furry haters. Now, it definitely should be noticed that JC got hate for being a furry, which is nothing new considering the furry community gets a lot of unreasonable hate, with very few exceptions that they let slide, like Pyrocynical, and it's something that I've seen firsthand considering I guess, like, quote, big quotes, I'm a furry, I guess, quote, again, quote. I mean, I don't have a son. Okay, whatever. We're not gonna. Okay, whatever. I've seen it firsthand. Just if you look online, and I have friends as well who have told me about their experiences. And yeah, it is true. He got hate for being a furry, but that isn't the reason for his story being deleted. The equivalent of what he's saying here is an actor doing a terrible job on a performance, and when people say he's a bad actor, hey, you did a terrible job, he simply says, oh, you hate me because I'm black, when race has nothing to do with it. You get the idea. Alright, so back to the story though, you get the general idea of what I'm saying here. Alright, here we go. Quote, but that does not mean I'm going to just sit down and take this lightly. Nope, no. They have been messing with the bull and now they've called out the horns. Listen, everyone, I need your help with this. We are at war here. I want every Sonic.exe fan who is reading this to get the word out. I want you to tell every other Sonic.exe fan out there, every fanatic, every artist, every follower of my creation about this. Tell your friends who are also Sonic.exe fans if they have to. Tell them we must keep the spirit of Sonic.exe alive. And end quotes there. This is what I believe, I think this is a truly great example of what happens when ego blinds reasoning and logicality. As we see here, he declares war against the moderators and other people that dislike what he created. And it's like this war that never existed. It's not like they've had this plot against Sonic.exe. They simply removed it due to the changing standards and qualities. And there's one of two things going on here. Either he genuinely thinks there is some kind of war against him at this time, or he's trying to get people to think there is something that is really not there in an attempt to regain his ground. And honestly, it could be both, but seeing the way that he kind of talks about how he wants to get the word out, it's quite interesting, and I feel like he is trying to maybe get people to kind of regain ground, and he even himself might not believe in his own delusions. Just the way he almost also says this reminds me of like Jim Jones and like every cult leader in a way. Let's go back to what he's saying here. Quote, make more fan art, make more videos, block the haters, praise Sonic.exe like you never have before, build websites dedicated to his greatness, whatever you gotta do to keep him alive and strong, just do it, like Shia LaBeouf, I guess, or something. The deletion of Sonic.exe from the wiki is but a minor cut on our flower of greatness, my friends, and that cut has done nothing but further the spreading, and we are the pollen of this flower. We need to prepare for our victory over the haters. The haters need to bleed for their crimes. Rejoice, my fellow Sonic.exe fans, our glorious little hellspawn, shall have the last... did he actually write that wrong? Our glorious little hellspawn shall have the laugh... Okay, I think he meant to say the last laugh. I totally did not realize that. Anyways, this will be our ultimate victory, the absolute subjugation of the internet itself. End quotes. Yeah, wow, this is some serious main character syndrome if I've ever seen it, but in all seriousness, this is actually something a cult leader would genuinely say. Like, I'm completely honest. I read a little bit of the Jonestown book. This actually looks like how this is literally some Jim Jones type beat going on here. Like, the way that he just portrays everything, puts everything into metaphors and similes, and it's like, it just feels so strange. And honestly, what he's saying here also contradicts this entire post. This deletion is but a minor cut on our flower of greatness. If it's not a big deal, if it's just a minor cut, if it's just a little problem, it's just this little annoyance, then why complain about it like you are right now? Why crash out in the first place? And the way that he also portrays like the ops, I guess if you want to put it, is also quite interesting as well. He makes them want to make them bleed for their crimes, almost like he is this authoritative person trying to like get rid of rebels. I don't know. It's just, it all feels so strangely cultish. And, that's just my opinion too. And again, you'd expect this to be written by someone who's like 15 or 14. But this was written by someone who is 23. Yes, JC was about 23-ish or so, 23 or 22, when he first wrote this. And it just feels so strange to see someone write like this at such an age. Regardless, that was the crash out. Now, interestingly, the moderators would respond with their side, which is very calm and collected, and would help shed insight on, reasoning, I guess, or like why they did what they did. And while I won't read the entire thing, it definitely shedded some insight on to like the time period, I guess, and what was going on at the time and their rationale, which actually seems quite valid. And they offer some actual good advice and some good insight and why they even understand what JC's going through. And I think it's right here. Quote, times change and you find the positive comments turn into hate. Blatant hate by new members who never understood the quality that the story once held. You no longer feel proud of this story, as nobody is proud of you for making it anymore. You're constantly flamed and made fun of for writing such a bad and mediocre story. Then the time comes, the moment you've been dreading for a while now. Your story is deleted, and subsequently moved to the Trollpasta wiki. You're in shock. What happened? Why did this happen to me? How could my greatest creation that sparked overwhelming positivity towards me turn into the laughingstock of the internet? Imagine if this happened to you. Would you be so upset as to flame an admin or two? Probably. I wouldn't blame you. While that doesn't make this okay, I'm just saying you guys have to really think about what JC was going through. I can understand what he was going through, but that doesn't make all the shit he did okay. End quotes. You see, JC kind of trapped himself into like his own ego that was stuck in this past golden age. Rather than looking forward into how he could improve, he was kind of just stuck in the past when everything was good because and didn't feel the need to improve almost. This story was written during the times where creepypastas were in their infancy and anything was basically praised and loved. But of course, as times change, so does quality and standards too. Like literally just look at movies. You've seen the CGI from movies go from really sketchy to really good. Recognizing this is important as an artist or creator or literally just a person in general. And understanding this is something that should make you, like, understanding that your work will not be seen as good as it used to be will be something that you need to understand so then you can work harder and motivate yourself to actually get better rather than blaming others for having just higher standards that are set by people who are passionate about improving unlike you. Anyways, enough of the crash out, let's move on. Now, I wish I didn't have to really time skip so far, but unfortunately a large part of the story and I guess just time period from 2014 to 2017 is just missing. Due to the deletion of JC's social medias, we can't really figure out too much, and again, we'll get onto that later. But in 2017, there would actually be a remake of SONIC.EXE, which is much longer and far more fleshed out and darker than the original. I didn't read it, and nor do I really care to read it because it is quite long, but I did skim a bit and it seemed better, but I can't confirm if the story is truly better. Again, it's far longer and much more fleshed out, and it could be interesting. Apparently, the wiki says that the word choice was disliked by the community because it was linked to his behavior, which I don't know what it specifically refers to, but I'm sure it has to do with his fall off in 2021. Anyways, during this time, he would also set up a DeviantArt, where we can learn a little bit about him, I guess, maybe just some small things. Apparently, around this time, JC would set up some ways to make money off of things, such as custom bracelets from Etsy and commissions as well. Also, considering that this one image we can see on his DeviantArt, we can see here he probably had a macro fetish, which, I mean, is just more information for us, I guess. I don't really care. He also drew a lot of NSFW stuff, and I'm not making an account just to see what it was with his OC, so, you know, there's that, I guess. And a lot of just things are missing here. I would be interested in his For Affinity threads or his YouTube videos, but I just can't find any information. Anyways, that's all I could really learn about here, and let's move on to 2021. Alright, 2021. This is the year of the fall off of JC. You see, JC, despite not being a Minecraft YouTuber, would do some Minecraft YouTuber things. During 2021, allegations would come out that he had a sexual thing going on with someone under the age of 18 in which they would engage in erotic fetish roleplay, and apparently he also exposed adult content he drew to minors, but this was a while ago. This was like during the time that Skype was at its peak, apparently, and apparently he was also an abusive boyfriend, but I can't really confirm that. It's quite a lot of stuff, and there are a lot more videos that really go into this, but here's the general gist. In 2021, JC would admit to his partner, Shannon Love, his girlfriend of 8 years-ish about, who got with him in about 2013-ish, that they engaged in erotic roleplay with a minor when he was 26, and this information would leak. By the way, the 26 would be when he released the remake, I'd just like to point out. A user on Twitter would also add on to this and provide screenshots of the interactions. This was probably why JC admitted to his partner. It's probably the screenshots that came out first, but whatever. And the screenshots of the interactions, I won't show them, but you probably already know where they're going. Now, Shannon felt betrayed as she, felt toyed around by JC, and I low-key just kind of feel bad for her. So that's kind of what happened, and then JC would just disappear. Now, according to the wiki, he was also a manipulator and an abusive boyfriend. However, I can't find anything that explicitly states or anything that's really proof of his abuse, but I can't understand where his manipulative behavior comes in, as he was toying around with people and probably the minors that he preyed upon. Remember how I mentioned his manipulation earlier and how he was trying to control people? Well, this maybe could have linked back, and this could be that could have been a sign, maybe, I guess. I don't know. If you just, I've seen the text and I've seen people like JC before, and when looking at the leaked text, they kind of reminded me of someone I knew who was similar, and it reeked of that same manipulation. Anyways, to put it simply, following this whole revelation with the whole community, with an underage user and all that, he would delete all his social medias and completely disappear from the internet, never to be seen again, and that's the end of JC the Hyena. However, despite this, SONIC.EXE would just not die. It actually would get very popular due to the popularity of the FNF mod centered around it. However, it would also have its own set of controversies, and it is arguably even more or just as complex as this one. And I won't really get into it now, but maybe I'll mention it if I ever get around to making that FNF community video. But other than that, that is everything with the legacy of SONIC.EXE, excluding the FNF mod, of course. I really tried on this one and tried to go to, it's just such a hard thing to research when a lot of the I guess, information sources are gone, and a lot of it's undocumented and unarchived, and honestly, I just don't even know where to look. But I still really hope you guys enjoyed this one and got the general gist of the legacy that JC the Hyena left behind for Sonic.exe before it would change a bunch and a bunch of other stuff would happen. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys next time.